Hello everyone and welcome to the open days of airBaltic Pilot Academy. My name is Julia, I'm from Lithuania, I'm 25 years old right now and I myself am a graduate of airBaltic Pilot Academy and currently working as first officer in airBaltic. I started Academy 2.5 years ago in September and it took me 2 years to graduate. And right now already started as the first officer, so having my first flights. So some numbers about airBaltic first of all. So we have already more than 2,500 employees in airBaltic, including all office people, maintenance, flight crew, cabin crew, everyone. And out of them, there are 447 pilots, including both first officers and captains, and 234 of them are first officers. So already 99 Pilot Academy graduates are also first officers in airBaltic. And there are 213 captains. And more or less, it takes you around 5 years to become a captain, since you became a first officer from the very beginning, like after the Pilot Academy, it is around 5 years to become a captain. And in airBaltic, we have a really big diversity. So we have 34 nationalities. So people are really coming from all around the world. And there are a lot of languages you can see in briefing room or in a Pilot Academy halls. Like, that's really a lot of new cultures you can actually meet every day. So for now, we are only flying Airbus 220-300. We were flying some different planes before, Boeing 737, Dash Q400, but we decided that it is the best option for us to just have a single fleet of Airbus 220, which is a really modern aircraft, the greenest aircraft in Europe, and it has almost 150 passenger seats, can fly 6,200 kilometers, and the fuel consumption is around 2,200 liters per hour. And from my side, as transitioning after Pilot Academy to airBaltic, I can say that it is the aircraft which is as similar as it can get to the Diamond, which is the aircraft we fly during studies. And even some people who come from different planes, they struggle more to transition than our transition from the Diamond is happening, because the systems are really similar. It's just a bigger plane, it's a jet plane, but we are really used to the overall impression of the plane, how it is in a Diamond and in an Airbus. And airBaltic Pilot Academy, it seemed a really great solution for me how to become a pilot when I decided so. I looked through a lot of options and made my choice for airBaltic because first of all, it's the airline. You can get your integrated ATPL license more or less within 24 months. It depends on a lot of factors, your own performance, how many holidays do you want to take, how is the weather, how is everything. So that's why there is no exact number that could be in the university, that you just tell you graduate in May in 3 years. Here is more or less approximate. As I already mentioned, we have Diamond aircrafts, which are really new training aircrafts and a simulator. That's then more or less the new generation of the training aircraft, and which is making that transition to the Airbus really smooth and easy. And our instructors are not just some professors who know the theory, they are actually airline instructors, most of them. So they really know not just the theoretical part, which of course you have to know, but they are also coming with their own experience, and they tell some tips from their everyday life, what to pay attention to, what to remember, what is really important for you to learn, and also they give the airline standard from the beginning, so you know more or less what to expect. And probably the biggest point is that you can actually have the pilot job in airBaltic after successfully passing your exams, doing the flight training and passing the assessments. Because as in many other professions, to get a job you need experience, and to get experience you need a job. So that is a really great solution, that you can actually get a job with a minimum experience, because you have been already with the company for the years of your studies. And since we have the instructors from the airline, and since we are kind of under the wing of airBaltic, of the airline, we have the standard of the airline from the very beginning. So we are wearing uniform, we are studying with iPads, When we go to fly, we have more or less the same systems, the same performance calculations apps, and also the standard operational procedures are more or less like in the airline. So as I mentioned before, for some people coming from outside, it is more difficult to transition, but not just for the Airbus, for the plane, but also for the standards of the airline, because every airline has their own standards. And here we are getting used to it from the very beginning, all the callouts, all the systems, everything is exactly the same as in the airline, just on the smaller scale. And what do you need to become a pilot? To the Pilot Academy students, so these are the minimum requirements. You need to be at least 18 years old, so as soon as you graduate the school, you are absolutely fine to be a pilot if you have 18 years. You need to be the citizen of the European Union or have a permit to live and work in the European Union. And you need to actually have this high school diploma. It doesn't matter what marks you have there, what exams you passed. It doesn't have a direct influence. It may make you look nicer if you have actually done great at school, but the most important is to have the diploma. You need to be healthy enough to pass the Class 1 medical certificate, and that includes a lot of different points of your health. Whoever has a question about the eyes, it's quite a lot that you can have the minus or the plus. It's just that you need to wear the glasses, have a spare pair of glasses, and you're fine. So usually it is not a problem unless it's really bad. There are different checks for heart, for of course the blood tests and so on. You need to be able to write and speak in English. It is a bit different language though during the studies than during the everyday life. I came thinking that my English is really nice, I can speak perfectly, but the studies are actually having the technical language. The thing is that I didn't know any of that stuff in any other language too, so I actually just learned it in English, and that was the way. But you need to be able to have the conversation, to understand what instructor is explaining you, and just to have some basic knowledge of English to have it easier. And the better English you have, the easier it will be for you to study. And you should not have any criminal record, because there is gonna be a background check, so you have to be clear of any suspicious activities, and you need to be able to swim. That is not gonna be checked in the beginning. We are gonna trust you, but in the end, when you transition to the company, there are gonna be exercises in the pool, which is one of the funniest parts of the trainings. And what can you do to make your selection process easier, or maybe to have more chances? So as mentioned before, grades do not have direct impact, but they definitely make an impression about you better if you have a nice grade from school, nice exam results, and so on. You don't have to, but it is nice if you have some interest and experience in aviation. I mean, probably interest we all have as long as we come here, but personally me, I didn't have absolutely any experience in aviation, nor my family or friends, absolutely no one. So it is definitely a plus if you already know the industry, but you're gonna find out about it more while you're studying. So you need to have good cognitive abilities and more or less healthy, active lifestyle. And you need to be a nice person. The positive personality traits are something that are gonna make your life easier, the work with you easier, because in the end, the pilot job is the teamwork, because you're always in the cockpit, the two of you, and there are also cabin crew in the cabin. So the better team member you can be, the happier people around you are gonna be, and the happier you are also gonna be. So the selection process, so there are two types, two ways to fund your program, your studies. So first you can have airBaltic loan program, when airBaltic is paying part of your studies and then it is deducted from your salary. Or if you already know that you can fund the studies yourself, you can go for the self-funded option, and that is totally fine. So first of all, we consider all the applications that we get, the motivation letters that you write, and all the beginning, the first stage. And later on, if you pass that stage, you are invited to do the tests. That's English, math, and physics tests. And English, as mentioned before, you need to be able to have a free communication. The better English you have, the easier it's going to be for you to study. Math and physics, they are more or less of high school level. Personally, I applied to academy after already university, so it was 4 years for me after school. I didn't remember anything from math and physics, but I did some tests on the internet, and you don't have to really be proficient and really have some extra knowledge, but the tests are there to understand that you actually have a minimum abilities to understand the formulas and more or less how physics work. It's not some high science, but just the basics of more or less like 10th, 12th grade of school in Baltics. I cannot say for other countries, but more or less the high school level. And it's probably even easier than physics exam, but you just still need to prepare a little bit because most of the stuff you're gonna need, you will still learn during your studies. And then there is the general mental abilities test for those who are applying for the airBaltic loan program. That's more or less the logical test, memory test, something to check how your brain works, because maybe formulas we can all just memorize, but need to check also how you actually manage to get solutions in different situations. As examples, there can be like the cubes exercises or the sequence, so that you actually notice some maybe patterns or something like that. So there are plenty of exercises on internet. If you check for any pilot aptitude test, you're gonna find some examples. You definitely don't have to practice for them. You don't have to study for them because that's something you have or not. But you're always gonna feel safer and more confident and perform better if you actually done them already before and practiced a little bit. And the psychological assessment, again for the loan program, then that's the interview with psychologist. That's nothing difficult, there is nothing to prepare for that. You just have the conversation with a psychologist about your life, about your interest, why do you want to be a pilot. They want to make sure that it's you who wants to be a pilot and to be a pilot and not just post fancy pictures, or not just going to be a pilot because your dad thinks it's cool, or because maybe girls are going to be more attracted if you're a pilot. That the job of psychologist is actually to find out that you really know what you are going to, that it's a difficult job, that it's a very the schedule that you never know if you're going to wake up or go to sleep at that time, and you're not going to be at home all the time, maybe not with a family or friends, but you're going to travel a lot, and those are going to be absolutely different destinations, so some you will enjoy more, some less. So the job of psychologist is to see that you are ready for that and more or less you understand what you are going to. And those two things are only for the airBaltic loan program, and if you are doing the self-funded option, if you know you already probably have money from somewhere else to pay for your studies, then these tests are not applicable for you right now. If you want to apply for the job, then you will have to do them again, but for now you don't have to. If at the moment you don't know if you will need the loan or you're gonna fund yourself, you just do all the tests and then you can decide later on. And the last part, that is for both options anyway, so that's the final interview. The final interview with management, because the management wants to know who is coming to work with them every day, who are they gonna see every day. So if you're going for the loan program, that's going to be the management of airBaltic Pilot Academy as well as the airBaltic as the airline, as you are more or less signing to be a future colleague. And if you're just doing the self-funded option, for now it's just going to be airBaltic Pilot Academy management. And again, if you're going to apply for the airline, you will do the big management interview later on. So the big question, how much does it cost? So the total cost of studies is 79,000 euros, but that is divided in some parts. So first of all, if you're going for the loan program, in the beginning you need to pay 15,000 euros before starting your studies, and that includes all theory and the first more or less 45 flight hours. So once you come, it takes around a year to do that, to do all the theory and earn 45 flight hours. Again, depends on weather and your personal performance, because if you fail some theory exams, you need to retake them and so on. So it's more or less around a year. And after that, you have a performance review. So you're going to do absolutely the same assessment as applying for the job. So that's some more cognitive abilities tests, again the interview with psychologist, again interview with management, and they're going to review overall performance in the academy so far. So if you are failing a lot of exams and you're not doing well with instructors, and you have some issues that don't make you a nice future colleague, then you may not pass it. But if you are doing well, if you are studying, if you're nice and polite to people, then you're gonna be fine to pass the interview. It's okay to fail some exams. We are not robots, and everyone needs their own pace to achieve something that maybe someone needs a month to study for that, someone needs a bit more time, someone needs less time. So it's okay to fail some exams or some progress checks. Personally, I had some fails, and that's completely fine. There is no issue about that, but just it has to be a sane amount, still showing that you are able to do whatever you have to do. And after performance review, for the rest of the studies, airBaltic is paying for you, and they're gonna deduct this after your line check already in the company. That's more or less after 4 or 5 months since you start working from the first day. And during that time, if you are having a airBaltic loan program, so the rest of the studies you will have a part-time job, because you need to be an employee of airBaltic to actually get the loan. So the job is going to depend on your previous experience. We'll have a few more words about that later on. But basically it's more or less 2 weeks of working in Riga and 2 weeks of flying and wherever it is. And if you are going for the self-funded program, the beginning is the same. You need to pay 15,000 euros before you start the studies. And that includes again the same, all theory and more or less 45 flight hours. And after that you don't have any performance review, you just go for next studies, next flight hours, all the stages, the instrument rating, the multi-engine, the upset prevention and recovery training, everything that is going further on. There are no breaks, you don't have to work at that time, but you have to pay yourself, and that is also not everything in one payment, it is still divided. So more or less around every 4 months you need to pay the amount of money you can see on the screen. And for self-funded option, for all CIA exams, for initial and one renewal of first class medical, for everything that is included in your studies, all the iPad study materials, uniform, all the fuel for the planes and everything, that is already included in the price. And you don't have the bond with airline after finishing the study. So you can go any other airline you want. If you would like to, you still can apply for airBaltic, of course, but you are free to go, and there is nothing that holds you in airBaltic anymore. But as mentioned before, selection process is a bit shorter. It's 3 steps instead of 5. And as mentioned before, you can you still want to stay in airBaltic, and since it's difficult to find a job without any experience, you can still apply for the job in airBaltic and get the interview. And airBaltic Pilot Academy graduates still have priority over other candidates, as it doesn't matter if you had the loan or not. If you funded it yourself, you just go through the same interview and you have as many chances to get the job as the loan-funded students. And for the airBaltic loan program, so performance review is gonna take place after all theory in 45 hours. Already talked about it before, but that's more or less as the job interview that you would have after if you come to any other airline. So in practical flying phase, the training and working is 50-50. So as I said, 2 weeks working, 2 weeks flying. Maybe sometimes you can work remotely, or it absolutely depends on the job you have. So if probably not everyone is coming from the school, so maybe they had some previous job experience. So if someone was working in marketing before, they can probably go to the marketing team. If they were working in IT, they can go to IT. If maybe they were some rape agents, they can continue doing that. That is absolutely individual and depends completely on your job experience. If you didn't have any experience, that's also fine. There is going to be a job for you. There are a lot of different jobs to do in the airline. And you start paying the loan after initial line check. So once you graduate the academy, you get your commercial pilot license, and then you start working in the airline. But of course, you cannot just go directly to the plane. First, you need to do a type rating, that is a rating for the exact specific plane, which is Airbus 220-300 in our case. That is around a month of theory, around a month of the simulator, and then you do the line check, that is already flying in the real plane, but you are still being checked. Every flight is like a lesson, and that is around 1-2 months, depends on the season and availability of instructors. And after you pass your line check, then you start paying off the loan. This is going to be deducted automatically from your salary. And here are the new groups, so you can apply and go to September or November groups already this year, or you can wait for the next year. The dates are still to be announced as soon as we fill in these groups. If you do the interview, all the tests and the performance, then you get the positive or negative answer. It's valid for a year. So, for example, if you do all the tests in May and you pass to get the positive answer, you can apply to September, November group, maybe next year, beginning of the year, until May. In any of those groups you can start. If you fail the interview in May, next May you can try again, and maybe then you will be lucky. So for those who are going directly after school, it might be useful to even do the interview like mid of the year, not wait after finishing exams. Because if you don't pass, you still have time for the next year to try again. And if you passed already before doing school exams, you already know that you're actually having a place in the pilot academy and you know what you're going to study. So the studies consist of 1,103 hours in total. That is in theory, and practically that's way more because you study on your own also. But that is the official numbers that you have to do. So first we can see the 3 points of the studies, theoretical studies. So some of the lessons are with instructors, some of them are just on your own. That was a bit weird in the beginning, that is just the self-studies that you have the iPad and just study on your own. But in the end I think it's a really nice way, much better approach than in universities or schools, because everyone has their own speed for studying. For example, I was making a lot of notes. So obviously I was way slower than someone who was just reading. Someone is remembering by writing, someone is remembering by listening, someone just needs to read. So you have your own pace, there is no rush, you can come home and finish, you can finish early, there is no problem about that. And then with instructor you can clarify everything that was not clear enough. Then there is a flying part. So around 155 hours are in single-engine piston aircraft, which is Diamond 40 NG in our case. As mentioned already, it's a really modern and nice aircraft to fly. I think all of us are really enjoying the aircraft, and I've seen some people who are just doing PPL and flying Cessnas coming to see the Diamond, at least inside, how Garmin looks and all of that, so we are really enjoying that. There is some training in the simulator, so that's 60 hours. That is mostly instrument training. For the visual flights, you don't really need the simulator, just the very beginning, just to feel how it works and which buttons are where. But most of the instrument training is done in the simulator, because what you are training is just to know what the screen is showing you and how to do approaches according to the instrumental procedures. And 15 hours are on multi-engine aircraft, that is Diamond 42 in our case. And that's more or less the same aircraft as Diamond 40, it's just that it has 2 engines, so it's a bit bigger, faster, has some more power. And that is absolutely the end of the training. That's last flights are done in the multi-engine. There are 8 hours of upset prevention and recovery training. That's the most fun part of the training for most of the students. That is when we go to UK and we fly the aerobatic planes. So you do whatever you want to do in the air. Of course, there is some small program, you finish that, and then you can actually have some fun in the air. The program is actually itself already fun. But you can do loops, you can fly upside down, you can fly completely in a turn. That is really great experience. Some have a walk of shame to the garbage bin after that flight, but to throw away the pocket that you made during the flight. But that is also an interesting part, so that is completely fine. And the last part is 45 hours is the multi-crew cooperation training, already in a lot of experience, and that was really, really helpful, especially for us who are just fresh after the studies and didn't have any experience in any previous airlines. So those are the last steps of the training, and after that you can get the commercial pilot license. So we have Diamond fleet of the aircraft, which we fly from Liepaja and Ventspils mostly, and the simulators are in Riga. And that's, you can see how many we have, how many we are getting in the next years. I just saw that the new aircraft has just arrived, the new Diamond 40 just arrived, and it's gonna look really, really pretty. And they're more or less the same, all of them. Well, they are actually the same model of the aircraft, just some are newer, some are older, but we all get the planes just directly from the factory. They have never been flown before. So for now the plan is to get one new aircraft each year. So we are aiming for that, so more and more students can fly and at the same time. That's the pilot demand we have. So the graph on the left, you can see how many pilots airBaltic would like to have in the following years. How many it actually needs to have for the fleet, which is actually really growing fast, the Airbus fleet. And that's on the right, how many, actually that's on the right for me, I don't know if that's on the right for you, but that's how many cadets airBaltic would like to join the airline in the next years. So as we can see, the more aircraft we are getting, the more pilots we need, the more students from Pilot Academy are also needed in the airline. Salary, the question that is very interesting for everyone, of course. So salary is based on your experience. In the beginning, when you come, just after the academy, and you start your type rating, already during those few months of type rating studies, you are getting salary. So that's the base salary per year. And there are some, you never get the same salary actually, because you get some extra hours if you worked at night, maybe on some celebration days, Christmas, New Year's, any Easter, whatever is official holiday, you get double pay on those days, you get extra pay for nights and so on. So that's the base, that's the minimum you can get, and it depends only on your flying what you will actually get. So FO 0, you are until you earn 300 hours. After you start flying, that takes more or less 5, 6, 7, 8 months, depending on the season, because of course in summer we could fly more, in winter less. So 300 hours is more or less in half a year after you started already flying. And then the salary increases every year, so it doesn't, maybe in some office job you have to show exceptional experience and then maybe get promoted, but here it's just based on experience. So once first salary increases after 300 hours, then in 1 year since then there is another salary increase, in 1 year again, and 1 year again, and that's, you can see how the salary is growing. And more or less in 5 years you become a captain, and the system is the same, the salary is growing based on your experience. You can divide that by 12, and that's the salary you can get per month, which is, I think, is a really nice salary to get in the beginning and further on, and then you can decide if that's good for you or not, and see your future life. So of course there are also additional benefits for the flight crew, as working in the airline, not just the salary. First of all, if you are from another country, you have unlimited home leave tickets. For example, I'm from Lithuania, and I can fly to Lithuania with a really, really low price as many times as I want. There is completely no limit. The price is really low. For me, it takes more to get a taxi to the airport than actually fly to Lithuania. And if you are from any other country, that is also absolutely fine. You have ideal leisure travel tickets after 6 months of working in the airline, actually more or less when you actually have time to travel more. It is for you, for your parents, for your friends, partner, children, anyone you can take with you, and they're also getting discounted prices, which are quite lower prices. I think that's the biggest benefit of working in the airline industry, because office people also are getting that, and that's a really huge benefit. You can travel everywhere you want. You have paid vacation for 20 days per annum, so And all training, validation, medicals, visas, costs, everything is covered, whatever you need to do. And of course, you also have insurance that also covers a lot, so that is all covered. And after a year of employment, you get an insurance for loss of license. If something happened, maybe your medical condition, maybe whatever reason, if you're losing your license, you get the 100,000 euros compensation for that. Health insurance, as mentioned before, and accident insurance 24/7 anywhere. So as mentioned already, our airline is quite international, as well as the pilot academy is quite international. So you can see in blue the countries in Europe from which our students are coming. That's most of Europe already, and we're always happy to see new countries. And Latvia is also almost fully covered in blue. That means almost from all regions in Latvia we have students. And here are some contacts that you can follow us on social media. You can see some more tips, some more everyday life from Academy. There are students posting, there are marketing team posting. You can see a lot of information there, maybe some tips for you. You can see how the planes actually look, how the training center looks, and everything you can find a lot on social media. And here is the link and the code for asking your questions. You have to go on the website slido.com, and as the password you need to type this BA0524, and you can ask questions. Those are anonymous. If you want, you can write your name, but nobody's gonna know it's you. So you can ask whatever you prefer, and after the small break we're gonna answer all of them. Welcome back. Thank you for the little break and for all the questions. So we can start. What were the most beautiful places you fly to during your flight training? And can you decide where to fly during training? I'll start from the end. So you can decide as long as it's legal, let's say. So since we are flying to in Liepaja, we cannot fly west, there is sea. We can fly north, east and south as long as the airplane permits. Airplane can fly for 6 hours, but the lessons are having different time. So one lesson is 3 hours, another is 4, another lesson is 1 hour, so you need to be back on time to do that. So you can fly more or less everywhere in Lithuania, more or less everywhere in Latvia also, and during instrument training you can also fly to Kuressaare, to Estonia, or also there are some students who manage to go to Pärnu and Tartu in their cross-country flight. So that's more or less where you can go. And as for the most beautiful places, Latvians know more Latvian beautiful places, but for me as Lithuanian, I really enjoyed going to Nida. Just over flying that, you need to be careful to not cross the border with Kaliningrad, so you more or less stay on the northern side. But that's really nice to see the beauty of Nida from the air. And also, I was going to Trakai or just around Lithuania and lakes, and I managed to fly over my home to wave to mom. So mom and dad were really happy filming me from down the ground. So for Baltic people, it's actually a really good advantage. Do students realistically have any free time to do extracurricular activities outside of the study time, as sports and hobby clubs? It really depends on you and how much time do you actually need to study, because the studies during theory, it's more or less like any school or university. You start at 9 in the morning and you finish around like 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, depending on the day. So evening is free and it's your choice if you decide to do some hobbies or you do the question bank. Maybe you need to rest, meet friends, but well, I think it's also important to have some actually free time and fresh air from the studies. So maybe it will not be as much time as you had before. Well, most likely your job offer is going to be in technical department. And if you have been cabin crew before, most likely you're going to fly as cabin crew again. If maybe you were not even in aviation and you were IT, in IT department, so probably you're going to go to IT department. But of course, you can mention what would you prefer to do, what you think you can be good at, and that's very individual what you're going to get. If you go for a loan program, what is the maximum time the part-time job can delay your graduation by? So there is no exact time, because first of all, it depends on the job and on weather. Since it's 2 weeks working, 2 weeks flying, you may be really lucky, and when you come, there are 2 weeks of good weather, great possibilities to fly, and you are going to fly a lot. At the same time, you may be unlucky and you come in this 2 weeks of snow in April. You never know what's going to be. So of course it prolongs your studies a little bit, but there is no exact time of how long, of how much longer it's going to take. What better to include in your CV and what not? Well, whatever you want people to know about you. What you think and make higher chances for you to succeed is good to include. Whatever is related to aviation, that's always nice. What not to include, well, that's kind of CV, so that's kind of the description of your experience. So maybe, I don't know, there's probably nothing that you should not include. That hopefully there is nothing you have to hide. So. If you are doing the loan program and you are successful in getting a job at airBaltic, what is the maximum bond period at airBaltic and how is the payback? I think it's around 3-4 years that it takes to repay it, since it's taken from your salary. Could be around 5 years. And if you want, you can repay that faster, but that's the maximum. The normal pace is around 3, 4, 5 years. How likely it is to get into a pilot academy without prior flying experience? It seems cadets come from the field like flight attendants. Lately there are quite a lot of flight attendants coming to the pilot academy, but it has absolutely no influence if you have never been flying before. personally, I had absolutely zero experience. I was studying international business and I was training dogs before. So that's absolutely not related to flying experience. So a lot of students actually have nothing from their past that could be related with aviation, and that's completely fine as long as you want your future to be connected to aviation. Is Latvia safe to stay and live? Maybe that depends who you ask, from which country people come. I'm from Lithuania, so for me it's more or less the same. There are some areas maybe you would not like to go at night. I think that's the same in absolutely any country. Some people coming from big cities like Paris, Berlin, Madrid, they are saying Latvia is incredibly safe and they are feeling really nice here. So that's, again, personal experience, and it depends where in Riga you actually decide to stay. Can I take my friends on the solo rides in Diamonds? Unfortunately, no, because you are not a pilot yet. While you are doing your training, you don't have the license, and without the license, you obviously cannot take your friends, because if something happens, you are insured, but your friend is absolutely not, and that's a really big mess, so that's a no. Are the physics studies hard? There are no exactly physics studies as a subject, but there are different subjects that include physics. For example, principles of flight, or aircraft general knowledge, that is about electrics, hydraulics, and so on. Hard is a really difficult question, because something what is hard for me may not be hard for you, and vice versa. So you need to study for that. Of course, if maybe you were studying something about that before, it will be easier for you, but hard is really relatively to say. I had to study. As I mentioned, I didn't have any physics experience before. I had to study. For some people, it's much easier. It's absolutely personal. How long is the selection valid? Can I do the selection in the upcoming months and begin next year with the program? And how much does the selection cost? So selection is free of charge. You don't have to pay it when you're applying. And it's valid for 1 year. So if you do your test in May, you can, and you get the positive answer, you can go in any group starting between May of this year and May of next year. So September, November, or beginning of next year, you can go any of those groups. And if you have negative answer, that's exactly the same for a year. You cannot do the assessment again. But if you fail assessment this May, you can do the assessment again in May 2025. Do I need to rent in 2 places at the same time if I work in Riga for 2 weeks and then fly training in Liepāja, for example? It depends on the job you do and on the place you live. In Liepāja there are dorms which are absolutely cheap, I think around 30 euros per month. And in Riga, if you have some office job which is remote, probably which you can do remotely, probably you can work remotely from Liepāja and just come sometimes to Riga. Then yes, you would need some accommodation, but there are many people you become friends with, so many people actually share their apartments. So whenever someone has apartment in one city and someone doesn't have and needs to stay there for a while, they usually share, or again, you can just share apartment with someone, and that makes the cost much cheaper. Are we invited to pass English, math and physics tests on site, or it's an online exam? So those exams are online, and then the interviews are on site. So once you successfully pass English, math and physics tests, you get the email that you are invited for the offline interviews, and you agree on a date when you can come. How common it is for someone not to get in on their first try? There is no exact data from which try do students come, but it's quite normal not to get on the first try. I know at least few people, and that's absolutely fine. Probably, maybe there are going to be different reasons. Maybe you didn't know what to expect on the assessment. Maybe you're just after school, really fresh, and you're not sure what you're gonna do. You can come in a year, and maybe you are already, after this year of thinking, you're even more certain you want to do this, and you're gonna sound better as a psychologist. Or maybe now that you try the test, you know how to prepare for them, and you're gonna do better next year. So that's possible to not get in on the first try, and that's still absolutely fine to try again and do better on the second try. I see that I can apply until the May 7th. What will be the next application deadline? So that's not exactly the deadline. You can absolutely apply after. It's just more or less systemizing the selection process It's just if you apply later, maybe your tests are going to be a little bit later and so on. So you can apply any day, anytime. How long is the course going to be discounted from 25,000 euro to 15,000 euro? Okay, so there is no time scale for that. For now, it's just the price is 79,000, and for now there is no plan when it's going to increase. What are the semesters like? Do you get regular breaks? So there are no semesters since we are not really in the university. So all the theory is divided in 3 phases, and the first phase is 6 subjects. So you do, I think it's around 2.5 months it took us to do the theory lessons for phase 1. Then we had school exams, then CAA exams, which are the official exams that go into your license. Then it's phase 2. That's around 2 months of theory, and then again school exams and CAA exams. And there is third phase that is just 3 subjects, and it's around a month of theory studies and then exams again. So you just go phase by phase, and the breaks depend on when you start. So if you start, let's say, in September, then you're going to do phase 1 and 2 and then go flying. If you start in November, you're going to do phase 1 and then go flying. The breaks actually are just the Christmas breaks and whenever there is an official holiday in the country, but there is no like summer holiday break like it would be in university. So it's more or less consistent. If you need some break, you can request during flying, you can request days off, but that's going to influence your flying. So we strongly suggest not to take too many days off. Also from personal experience, I maybe took too many. What are the most common reasons for applicants to fail the assessment to the pilot academy? So there is no such data to share, but perhaps your math knowledge, and it can be really individual. It depends on the person where exactly you fail. There is no data that we could just share, which is the step where students fail the most. Does the academy favor rather self-funded or airBaltic loan program application, or it really depends on the candidate? We just look at you as the candidate, and if you are good for us to have as a colleague in the future or not. If we believe you can be a great student, and there doesn't matter if you are self-funded or having a loan program. Is airBaltic Pilot Academy still going the 1-week assessment as in the past? It depends. It's a few times per month, so it just depends whenever you apply and whenever you get the answer. How easy it was to move to Riga? What are the prices, the people, the culture? I'm Lithuanian, so for me it's not too different. Maybe for someone from such countries as Spain or Italy, it's a bit different culture, since we are not South people and we are not smiling that much, but they adapt really well, and then they bring the sunshine to our everyday life. So for me it was fine. And again, it depends on the person. I'm more or less flexible and adaptive anywhere. I've traveled and lived in different places before, so for me it's fine. But if you're going to be a pilot, then you have to be fine. When you start flying, you're never going to be home all the time. Sometimes you will have to live in hotels, sometimes more, sometimes less, so you also have to be adaptive. Prices, again, depends what you compare with. If I compare with Lithuania, for me it's more or less the same. I noticed fuel is more expensive always, all these years, but otherwise all the supermarket prices are more or less the same. And living costs, don't take it as a fact, but from what people say in Lithuania, actually Riga is a bit cheaper than Lithuanian rent prices. But that's not a fact, that's an opinion. What has been the most challenging part of your studies? Theory, I would say, because that's a lot of new knowledge that is not in my native language, and I need to learn all of that immediately in English. And then sometimes I would come home and my dad is interested in aviation and he would ask me to tell him something, and I cannot, because I only know the answer in English. I could tell something in English, but I cannot tell it in any other language anymore. So probably the theory studies, because once you start flying, even though sometimes you fail or sometimes the landings are not the best and the weather is different, but you enjoy flying a lot, and then you know why you are there. But while you are doing theory, you just need to go absolutely on your inner motivation. What percentage of students who ask for a loan actually pass the assessment after initial phase? There is no exact percentage for now, but quite high. Basically, you just need to be a normal student. You don't have to be exceptional to pass the assessment. You just don't have to be exceptional in a bad way either. So if you are really failing a lot of exams, maybe that's not so good. Or if you are really arrogant and mean with instructors or other students, maybe you're not also the perfect candidate. So that's what it says. It's performance review. So it just depends on your performance. So if you are an average student, just maybe sometimes failing, some mostly passing, and just being a normal student, they are gonna be fine. As a 40-year-old processing a PPL with 60 hours predominantly in Cessna 150, would it be necessary for me to commence training from the foundation level? Yes, because it's an integrated course. But you can have some hours deducted. You may not have to fly all the time building hours, but that doesn't mean that it's minus 60 hours. It's just going to be your personal evaluation. And there are students who have PPL with a lot of experience, so they have to fly a little bit less hours on time building during studies. If we apply by May 7th, what is the deadline to pass the online test? So there is no deadline. You're going to be invited for the test. You say if that date is good for you or not, and just find which is the best date for you both. There is no deadline. I applied and got rejected. Now I need to wait for a year. Do you have any plans to reduce this period to 6 months like most airlines? No, there is no such plan, because if you got rejected, there is probably a reason. You may not know the reason, you may know the reason, but a year is what considered the best for you to reapply, improve, and to reevaluate you. I will graduate from high school end of May 2025. What would be the best time to undertake the selection process, please? Thank you. So since it's valid for a year, if you graduate in May and you pass, you have a year to decide when you want to study. If you apply in May and you fail, then you have a year break before you can apply again. So calculate more or less what is the maximum and minimum break you would like to have or you can afford to have. Maybe you are quite happy to have a gap year, and then it's fine to just apply maybe even after school exams, so you have time to prepare. If you would really like to go study immediately, maybe it's better to apply earlier. So if, for example, you apply in January and you fail, then in May you have your school exams. You graduated school, you have autumn to prepare for the assessment again, to have some rest, and then in January you can apply again. So just evaluate how much time free you could afford to have or you would like to have. What is the preferred format in which high school and university grades must be presented? Scanned originals, or will government website copies with data suffice? That should be fine. In any way, that's really minor detail. You just send, and if it's not good enough, you can just send them again. There is definitely no evaluation of the format, how you present the documents, so that's completely fine anyway. And if it's not, then you'll be informed and you will just have to send again. Does a previous failure in airBaltic assessment affect a future applications? If not, how many times can I apply? So the maximum time to apply is 3 times. If you failed 3 times, you cannot apply anymore. But otherwise, it doesn't have any influence, because maybe in a year you're a new person, you matured, you studied more, and now you are going to be accepted. So you are just evaluated as an absolutely new candidate without any influence of previous assessments. As a 33-year-old woman, is it too late to apply, or there is no age limit? There is definitely no age limit, and that's definitely not old. There are students who are 42, I think is the oldest student in the academy, and being a woman or a man even more doesn't have any influence. Pilot career can be until 65 years, so you have still a lot of years to make your career, so that's completely fine. Will I be able to start flying for airBaltic after completing training, or do you have to become an instructor first? Becoming an instructor is the American thing, actually. In Europe, in any of the airlines, you don't have to do that. You can just go directly as a first officer. I graduated academy, I finished my studies in September, and end of October I signed the contract as the first officer, so without any instruction experience. That's American thing, that you need to be instructor first. How long did it take you since start to becoming FO and work for airBaltic, and did you do loan and or self-funded? So I started in September, what year I don't remember even, but exactly in 2 years, September, I finished all the studies, and in a month became first officer. How soon do you start in the company? It just depends on the time, because the starting day is usually end of the month, so it just depends when you finish and how many places are in that type rating group. So it's quite fast. You usually don't have to wait long. And when I applied, there was no loan or self-funded options. There was only self-funded. So I have a loan from the bank, and then just a small part for airBaltic, just the last installment. So for that last installment, you didn't have to work. So for me, that was never an option. Which are the most common questions asked by airBaltic Academy to candidates before joining the academy? So more or less, they want to know who is coming, what are they expecting. So they want to know, why do you want to be a pilot? Do you know what is the pilot job? Are you ready for that? Do you know that it's not just the pretty pictures and fancy uniform? Do you actually know that it's a lot of sleepless nights, that it's difficult studies? I think studies are more difficult than the job itself, so that you are ready mentally and ready physically for that. That it's you who wants to be a pilot, and it's not because your dad thinks you should be a pilot, or not because your girlfriend thinks so, or boyfriend, or whoever. It has to be you who decided to be a pilot and really wants that to achieve and ready to work for that. So more or less, it's the question of your motivation. How long does it take for an average pilot academy student to go through the process of getting their first class medical? For me, it was 2 days, because I went on Friday. I did it in Lithuania. So I did half of the tests on Friday, and then some doctors were not there. I came back on Monday. Usually it can be done in 1 day or 2 days. It depends where you do and their availability. It's really quick. I heard that the CEO still flies from time to time. Did you get the opportunity to fly with him? So yes, our CEO still keeps the active rating and the license. I did not have an opportunity to fly with him. Why do graduates start flying with 3 stripes instead of 2? So I think it's actually different in different flight schools, but here when on the first day you come to the pilot academy, you just get the applons without any stripes, it's just black. While you are doing theory and so on, you just have it black without any stripes. And after your first solo flight, there is the special procedure, the ceremony, the most fun of the studies. So you do your solo flight, that's 3 touch and goes, and once you land, you get the cold water bucket on your head. Your tie is getting cut, and you get first stripe. Then you have 1 stripe on each shoulder, and then you're flying with 1 stripe. And once you do your first flight on multi-engine aircraft on D42, then you get 2nd stripe. Same procedure again. You come back from the flight. That's actually not solo flight, but just after your first flight on multi-engine aircraft, you get the cold water bucket and you get the 2nd stripe. And once you become first officer, so once you're joining airline, you become first officer and you get 3 stripes. And later on, once you become captain, you get 4 stripes. What is the percentage of accepted students among all applicants per intake? Example, April or January? There is definitely no statistics for exact month because you can apply anytime and then get to any group. But the percentage of students that actually get in the academy is quite low from those who apply, because quite many students don't pass the tests or the psychologist interview or so on. It's quite a big selection process. On which platform on the internet do you recommend to train for math and physics, latest pilot jobs, pilot assessment, pilot test, etc.? I trained on one of those, but it doesn't really matter because There is none platform that is exactly the same as these tests, so whichever you do, it's going to be useful. If you do few of them, that's even more useful, and it's just, there is no one exact platform that we offer to prepare. It's up to you. Is there a regulation for pilots on what cosmetics you can wear, for example, a specific fragrance or only one type of lipstick to fit in the company branding? Actually, airBaltic is overall quite open, and you can even have tattoos as long as it's not on the face. And whatever you prefer, well, you need to look tidy and official. And I mean, probably having purple or black lipstick would be a bit interesting view, but there is specific uniform regulations that you need to be up to that, and that's it. But you just need to be a tidy, beautiful person. Beautiful, I mean clean, not the beauty standards. How does the logistics work when working 50% and flying at the same time? Do you have to get accommodations in both Riga and Liepaja? So for accommodations, already answered. It depends on the job. You organize with friends to share something, and dorms in Liepaja, if you get them, they're quite cheap. And logistics, it's your personal choice. There is a bus, there are cars driving, there are some Facebook groups where you can join the ride. I've done that a few times. There are your colleagues driving. You basically organize that. It's totally fine. There is also a train, I think, going a few times per week. How long will the course be discounted at the academy? Said before, there is no exact date. How long it's going to be like that? Just we'll see how the time goes. Is it possible to work from other base than Riga? I imagine that's a question for flying already in the airline. So official base is Riga, and otherwise, if you prefer to fly from somewhere else, you can only bid for that. There is a special bidding system where you can put the preferences that you want to have, let's say Vilnius or Tallinn layovers. Maybe you want to fly from Zurich or whatever. You can put as a preference, but the official base is always going to be Riga, and it's just going to depend on schedule. How do you get it? And the longer you're in the company, the higher priority, the bigger our chances to actually organize your schedule. Does it get boring during cruise flights for you, especially longer ones, with all the automation and everything? I think and I hope I'm still many years away from getting bored while flying. For now, I think everything is really new and exciting, and you just have a talk with the captain. Sometimes maybe you have someone on the jump seat and so on. I think it's the personal attitude towards the things, because I think you can be bored anywhere, and you can find something entertaining also anywhere. And for now, especially in the beginning, it's really exciting, and it's definitely not boring. Do you have time for part-time job next to your studies? Depends. I guess it's personal preference. You can maybe have something probably online, but as it is going in the university where you go to lectures and then you work as a waiter or someone, I mean, you can, it's legal, but I would strongly suggest not to, because the more you concentrate on studies, that's your future career, the better it's going to be for you, the better your performance is going to be. And that's something you don't want to lose just because you had to do some extra job. But there are people, I think, who had like some previous job, like some business or whatever, who are already older, and they still, of course, managed to keep an eye on there and so on. But it's very personal. I personally didn't do any part-time job. I would have not have time for that, for sure. As you are Lithuanian, how often can you be at home in Lithuania now and being FO? It depends. There are people who actually commute. I prefer to just live in Riga and fly from here and just go to visit home from time to time. But otherwise, there are people who actually live in Lithuania. And then, for example, not just Lithuania, also other countries. To Vilnius, there are 4 flights per day, and you can fly in the morning to Riga, do your flights, come back in the evening, if you prefer that. I don't really like that. For me, the new life is here in Riga, but you can actually be at home more or less every night if you want that, if you don't have layovers in other countries, but that's also individual. Depends on your schedule, if you're commuting or if you're staying here. How did you decide to become a pilot? Actually, I was always interested in aviation. As a 16-year-old girl, not so often you can think you can become an airline pilot, so I didn't consider that in the beginning. I went to study international business, and I thought that once I graduate that I will go to work in aviation from the ground. But on one of the conversations when my dad was talking to my cousin of what profession maybe he would like, just giving options, maybe he something what would interest him to do in the future, he said maybe you want to be a pilot, and I just said yeah, that's super cool, you should go, definitely, that's really good. And he got mad and he said, if you think it's so cool, you should go yourself. And that was the first time when I thought that, well, maybe I actually can go myself. But I know myself, I get excited about something really fast, and I get unexcited about it also really fast. So I decided, that was already when I was in university, so I already decided to continue with the studies in the university, and then see when I graduate if I still wanted to apply. And if by the time I graduate university I don't want it anymore, then it wasn't meant to be, then at least I have my university degree. So I graduated university, and then I started to think what else, what do I want to do next? And then I still wanted to be a pilot, wanted to be in aviation, and then I applied in a few months, and then graduated university actually in January, and in September I started already here in Pilot Academy. I've seen the graph shown on the number of cadets in 2024 and 2025, but do you have a limit per class? How many people will be accepted in September 24 and November 24? It doesn't go, the percentage doesn't go exactly per class, that, okay, on this assessment we can accept 10%. It might be that 10 people do the assessment and 10 of them pass. It might be that 10 of them fail. And just all of them who get the positive answers, they are getting an invitation to Academy, and they get the possible starting dates. So for example, you did assessment in May, you get positive answers, so they say you can start in September, November, or beginning of next year. And if all September spots are taken, then you are invited for November group, and so on. It's you can go to any group you want, and number of cadets per class, it's more or less 15, 16 cadets in one class. If I get accepted, can I postpone studies because I have to serve in military? Yes, the same. It's valid for a year. So if you got accepted, then you have to do 9 months in the military. You can still have time to come back for studies, just to calculate the time. But it's actually with military, it's one of my group mate got invited to military in the end of his studies actually, and he just went now for the military and then will come back to continue the studies. That's very personal case if something like this happens, and actually Academy is quite flexible with that, so that's going to be organized, that's fine. Was it easy to find accommodation when you moved to Latvia? Well, there is internet, so with internet everything is possible, so just Googled the apartments for rent, and then went to see and rented that, so yes, kind of easy, I guess. What would you say is the amount you need per month to live in Riga, accommodation plus food for decent living? That's really personal. I cook at home. I don't really order food that much, so I guess for me it's less than for someone who is ordering all the time. For me it's around 150 to 100 euros for food per month, but again I cook, and that's very, very individual. Rent, you can find whatever from less than 200 then till no limit. It just depends on your wishes, how fancy you want to live, which area you want to live, and it's really, really depends. You can find whatever you want. Did you go to ISM by any chance? No, I went to the business school of Vilnius University. How long does the selection take? So for me, from the moment I applied till the moment I got the answer was around a month. But the selection process will take a few weeks from the time you apply, depending also on the availability of you and the management and psychologist for the interview stages. So it is within a few weeks, a month approximately. Can I get a PPL while studying integrated program? So if you start in the beginning, you pay those 15,000, you do the theory, and you get the hours according to the PPL level. And if you decide to not continue, or maybe you didn't pass the performance review and the airBaltic is not paying for you and you don't have money to pay yourself, you can actually get the PPL. It's just keep in mind that ATPL theory is more difficult than PPL theory. So if you already know you just want to get a PPL, maybe it doesn't really make sense to go. Does the academy help with accommodation? In Riga, no. In Riga, there are really a lot of options for you to find yourself. In Liepaja, there are dorms and a hostel that has agreement with airBaltic that you can just call and book the room in advance, whatever time you want. And in Liepaja, there is some help. Thank you for the open day. See you soon. See you soon. How do you feel as a female in the company and during training? Was there any difference in attitude from instructors, etc.? No, actually, maybe the difference was in a nicer side because maybe sometimes you need to carry a few heavy bags and then they help and so on. And actually, also nice in everyday life. Whenever we go out or somewhere, it's usually just like 1 or 2 girls and the rest are guys, and it's always feels safer with them and so on. And they're all like brothers and really defensive with us, and it's actually really nice. If there is any difference, it's just a positive one. What is the rough acceptance rate for airBaltic Pilot Academy? There is no exactly the statistics, but it's really personal. Sometimes from one day of the test, everyone can pass, another day no one passes, so it depends. There is no exact statistics to share. What are my chances as a woman to get into Pilot Academy from the first time if I only have high school diploma? As many chances as for anyone else, as for any man, as for any other diplomas. That's absolutely individual assessment. It doesn't mean that because you're a woman you're not gonna get in, and actually it's more and more girls in every group now, and every time there are more and more girls interested in that, so I strongly encourage, and it's absolutely fine. Can you apply for airBaltic pilot program before finishing school exams? You can apply as long as while you're signing the contract you have the school graduation diploma. So it's fine if you're still studying, but just when you start and when you're signing the contract, then you actually have to have the diploma. How easy it is to move bases from Riga to another hub, Tallinn, Vilnius, etc.? I guess that's for flying part, but there are 4 flights to Vilnius from Riga per day and more or less the same to Tallinn, so it's quite easy. And if it's during studies still, well, there are buses, there are same flights. As the student, you also get some discounted tickets, so you can absolutely freely fly or drive around, it's fine. If a person has administrative offense on his record, can he enter an airBaltic Pilot Academy? So far, it's just a request for no criminal record. Administrative is fine. What does the math and physics test look like exactly? Number of questions? Is it multiple choice answer? It is multiple choice answer. I cannot say exactly the number of questions, but it's not exactly like school exam, at least not like Lithuanian school exam. But yes, it's a test. That's some basic level of basic formulas of, in case of physics, like electricity, mass, something like this. It's not crazy difficult. Like it's not, you don't have to be bachelors in physics to pass that. You just need to study a little bit before, probably, if you did school. I applied after university, so whatever I knew at school, I absolutely did not remember that after those years. So I just did some tests on internet, all the pilot aptitude tests, and that was fine enough. I'm reapplying this year because I didn't pass the psychological test last year. Any tips? I really want this. You need to prove the psychologist that you are ready and that you really want this. Think of what could have been a red flag for the psychologist last time. Maybe the small test that they made, maybe to practice that at home. Maybe that's something that you said about your family, your life, your point of view on life and everything. So just think what you as the psychologist would like to hear and who would you accept. And otherwise we don't really provide specific advice as such because you still have to be you and not just the standard answers. I heard there is good installations on training center, but I was wondering there is a kitchen or a microwave to cook your meals during studies. Thank you. That's an inside jokes, which you will be familiar once you get here. So there are 2 microwaves, and the plan is for the 3rd one, so it's gonna get really exciting. What is the selection process after your studies looking like? Do you only have an interview, or do you get cognitive abilities checked again? Yes, there is the same test as you do if you apply to any other airline, just there is no technical knowledge test because you just did those exams in academy. So that's the test for your memory, for all your cognitive abilities, more or less, for your memory, patience, multitasking, and so on. Those are the tests. You can also find on internet some of them, but not exactly, not all of them. Then again, it's the psychologist that you are still sane and able to fly, and that you're going to be a good addition to the airline. And the same management interview, which they ask about your experience in the pilot academy. Are you ready to move on the next step? What are your expectations? What do you know about the company? It's more or less standard. Can a student who is completing their final year of high school and turning 18 in October the year apply now? You can, okay, one moment. You can apply then from July, so 3 months before you turn 18, and once you start studies, you have to be already 18. I already have student debt from my university studies. Can I still get the airBaltic Pilot Academy loan, or should I work to pay those off before applying? I also have a loan from university studies, and it's fine. It's not the same loan as you get from the bank, so it's fine. If you are doing the loan program, are you and you are successful in getting a job at airBaltic, what is the maximum bond period at airBaltic, and how is the payback? So it's 5 years, the maximum period, and you pay back from your salary after the line check, which is more or less 4 or 5 months after you started working. How many students a year become airline pilots? That depends. For the individual, of course, there was COVID, then there were way less students, and the more students are studying now, the more students become airline pilots, but it's quite a big number of those who actually become pilots. I have class 1 medical, which I have obtained in Lithuania. Is it possible to just transfer it to Latvia, or do I have to acquire it again? It's possible to transfer it. I also did it in Lithuania and just transferred it. It just needs to be transferred before the end of the studies. Once you get the flight crew license, then it needs to be Latvian, and otherwise it's fine to be Lithuanian. If your application gets rejected, do they give you a reason for rejection or not? And there is no detailed feedback for that, I'm afraid. airBaltic just started a new route from Torp to Copenhagen. Is there any plans to start a base in Torp, Norway? Not that I would be aware of. I'm afraid those are more questions to the airBaltic management, but no plans. How many people a year get the funding? There is no limit how many you will get. For now, everyone who wants it, who applies for it, and who is good enough to get it, they get the funding. Will studying in aircraft mechanic in LVT help me to get accepted in the academy? It is not a direct help. It's not like if you are aircraft mechanic, you're gonna automatically get in, but it's something that makes an impression about you greater. It means you already know some technical stuff. It means you're familiar with aircraft, so that's definitely a plus, but if you're not studying that, it's not a disadvantage either. When will the live open day in Riga will happen? It's going to be 5th of July, and as for June, it's not exactly the open day, but you can come to the air show in Liepāja, where there will be representatives, and you can also ask the questions. It is possible to take a week between blocks during theory to get back home, or you finish CA exams and start new block right away. Officially no, but it depends on the schedule, because well, let's say CA exams are always Tuesday, Thursday, so you probably don't start on Friday. No one did so far, so at least you have a few days. And it depends on the time of the year. It's very individual, but students go home sometimes. It's fine. There are students from really far away and they still manage to go home from time to time. So of course, maybe not every weekend, but it's fine. You can go sometimes. Do students get discounted tickets during theory study to travel home? Yes, you have discounted ID tickets. It's not the full home leave tickets as for the employee, but you still get the discounted ID tickets. Should I study in high school or technical school? That doesn't matter. It's up to you and what do you think is the best for you and where your interests are. You need to have the graduation. You just have to have the graduation from the high school. So that seems to be all questions. Thank you everyone and hopefully see you here in the training center soon.